Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be painting a wave with oil. I really hope you enjoy it. So as you can see, I'm starting with the center of the wave, and I've made my composition so that the big wave is right in the center of the canvas. I think this is quite a good idea so that you can get the real impact of the wave, the real movement. If you draw a wave sort of in the corner or at the side, you're not really going to get as much impact. But of course you could do that if that was what you were looking for, and maybe if you wanted to make your focal point something else, like maybe, I don't know, a sunset or something like that. But in this case, because the primary goal of this video is to paint a wave, I put the wave right in the middle, and I've used obviously I'm using oil, but I'm also using a paint thinner, and this is really important if you want to paint oil, because if you want to paint water rather, because water is so translucent, you want to get that beautiful fluid effect and also be able to spread the paint very thinly and fast, obviously, because if you don't thin out your oil paints, what happens is it's just really thick. And because I'm using really high quality oils, they're even thicker than normal because they don't have a filler involved, so as much filler rather, so it's even more important that I have something that thins them out. Otherwise it's a very difficult, time consuming, and just it's not really enjoyable for me. I find it too stiff to work with. However, some people do like that. Obviously if you want that kind of thick impasto feeling, then obviously go for it if you enjoy that. But this is just doing it in a more realism type of way. So I'm painting above the wave a bright blue colour here. I'm actually going to darken this later on because I want to create a really strong contrast between the centre of the wave, which is going to include a lot of white, obviously, because there'll be sea foam, and so I don't want the wave to just really get lost in everything in the painting. So I really want there to be really strong contrast. If you like really strong contrasts in your oil painting, or in your paintings rather, then oil is a really good medium to go for, because that can create an amazing intensity. If you don't like a really strong contrast, then watercolor is another good alternative, because that spreads really easily and doesn't have the strong depth of colour, and you can create some really beautiful paintings by using watercolour, particularly with water, because obviously the clue is in the name, right? It's great to use for water-based landscape. But in my opinion, because I prefer this really strong contrast, I like the drama, I like to be able to look at a painting and see real impact, I much prefer oils, and oil is really my favourite painting medium. So of course you can use acrylic if you want to get a similar look, but you can't be bothered with the hassle of using oils. Obviously you have to wait for it to dry, and this is a 3-stage process. So this is day 1, and I'm laying the paint down as much as I can, so getting it all across the canvas, so that on the second day I can start going in with my first set of details, so that I don't have to worry too much about little areas where that haven't been covered with paint. I don't like to leave big blobs of canvas that haven't been covered, because otherwise then I have to keep going over those, and then that just extends the painting process. So now I'm doing some seaweedy type texture here, making sure that I keep the brushstroke quite loose, even though I want it to be detailed and precise. I don't think it's important to get bogged down on every single tiny detail, because it then becomes quite tedious to paint. And when you look at a sea, you're looking at the overall picture of the sea, you're not looking at every tiny little wave. So this is day 2, and now I'm brightening up the center of the wave. Now obviously you can see that the wave on the underside has a lot of strong green and sort of teal colours are mixed in, so there's a teal and a green involved, and that really creates a nice strong good colour for the wave. And then as I'm reaching outwards, so the flatter parts of the water will be more sort of greyish blue and and with some green mixed in, but not as strong as what I've used on the wave. And where the light hits the wave in the centre, I've kept that very light, so very light greenish teal colour. So I've added these diagonal lines coming up to the wave with dark green, and then on the underside of the wave I'm starting to put some blue and some green as well, green mixed in, to the top of the wave so that I can make way for the sea foam. So sea foam is going to go on top of this, and this will be on stage 3, so not quite yet. And I'm trying to make sure that I can get as many shadows underneath the sea foam. So just remember that when the wave hits the water, there will be a shadow underneath, a shadow on top of the water. So you want to not forget that part, because otherwise you won't have any kind of dimension and shading to your waves. They'll just look like they're sort of floating in the middle of nothing. So you want to remember how your wave impacts everything around it. And now I'm just going over the colours that I've already done, just to make sure that they're just strong enough, making sure that I'm putting in the darks as well as the lights to again create the really nice contrast. And the canvas that I'm using is a Winsor & Newton canvas board. This is really useful for me because I work on a desk. I don't use an easel. I have an easel, but I don't know why. For me, I much prefer working on a desk. It's just a personal preference. Here I'm filling in the sea foam, making sure that I'm keeping it quite detailed here actually. I'd say this is probably the most detailed part of the painting. Some of the sea foam is greyish, some of it is a little bit blue, and some of it coming away from the rest of the wave is obviously going to be that greenish teal colour. So not everything is completely stark white. They all have, every part of the wave has different colours reflecting off it. So just remember that, so that you don't have just one horrible kind of flat colour. I also want to add some spray here. I actually think I did this on the last stage, but you can do it here as well. The only thing is that because I'm repainting the top part, I'm going to go a lot darker in a moment. I decided not to add in the spray, but I do that once I'd filled in the rest of the canvas. So I began by thinking maybe I'd just add a few textures to the water, but then I decided to actually go much darker on top, because I really wanted, again, the wave to stand out, and I just felt it didn't really have the impact that I wanted to. Of course, this is not entirely realistic, as in it's not based on any photograph or anything, but I just this particular part, but I just decided that for me, in terms of the way that I look at the painting, it just didn't quite have the force that I wanted it to. It didn't have the drama. And of course you can change your paintings to suit how you want them to look. You can look at it at the end, even if you are doing it from real life, or if you're doing it from a photograph, and if you don't like how it's come out and you thought, well, actually I'd much prefer to have some pink here, or make it look more surreal, you can do that, and it actually is more inventive, and you'll probably end up feeling more excited about your painting because it had much more of your own personal imagination and input into it, rather than copying always directly from real life or from a photograph. Of course, there's nothing wrong with not changing it at all, but it does it can be quite interesting just to experiment and see what happens if you change things up. So this is quite dramatic here, and I think I was going to stop just before I did this. So when I was doing it, I was thinking, oh God, have I done this completely wrong? But I do think I prefer it this way, because I just feel it was starting to look a bit bland and like one of those pictures you see in a, seaside town or something. Whereas I wanted it to be a bit more unique, so I've added in quite a lot of rich blue and I mixed it with a lot of black. And then I'm also adding that in to the waves as well, just to again bring some more drama, some more impact, to make sure that it looks like the wave is really moving. I added some spray as well on top, so that wave looks like it's really crashing. And then I've just put in some more blue here. So that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.